You're tuned into the Sticks for Stones podcast. Right now we've got Lindsay Schoolcraft. She's new. She's in the band Cradle of Filth. Now you've only been in the band 2 years. Can you tell us how did you get the gig?
Well, it's actually been 2.5 years now. I can't believe it because it's July 1st, and I was hired in January of 2013.
Yeah.
And it feels like yesterday, but it's not. That's why it's strange for me. But I actually got very lucky. My predecessor, she had left the band. She moved on to some other gigs and kind of left Cradle of Filth in a tight spot. They had a world tour coming up. So they found me on Facebook through a friend, and I fit the description. They were looking for a female who could sing and play keyboard, and I guess kind of fit into the genre and had the look, and they found me, and they offered me the gig, and at the time it was just a temporary spot. It wasn't anything long-term, but then here we are 2.5 years later, and I've had a chance to be on the new album with the guys. So.
Yeah, that's really an awesome story. It must be like, almost like a story like Zakk Wylde getting the gig with Ozzy Osbourne. Like, were you doing much before that? Were you recording and gigging and doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it was kind of like Christmas morning when I got the gig, won't lie. It was near Christmas morning. It was a week before Christmas, so. But I've always been a musician. I made the decision when I was 15 years old in high school that music was going to be my life. I've made very many transitions. Since that, I started with punk music. I played bass and I sang in an all-girl punk band in my high school years, and we played Warped Tour in North America.
Wow.
And then, and then we split ways, and then I decided to go for classical singing and piano, and I started a band in Canada, and I did that for a few years. And then right before the Cradle of Filth gig came along, I was actually in university for opera singing and in orchestral composition. So I quit university to join the band.
Okay, so you were studying music, and you're pretty musically trained, obviously, because you're awesome on the keyboards, and you've got a great voice.
Oh, thank you.
Sound fantastic. You actually was looking up YouTube, and I don't know if that was before you were in the band, but you had some covers of you doing Evanescence songs, Cradle of Filth. Was that before?
Yeah.
Was that before?
Yeah, that was before. Yeah. Right before Cradle of Filth, I also decided to go solo.
Yeah.
And, I was doing that kind of stuff just on my own in my bedroom because I did not foresee Cradle of Filth coming, and I know if you use YouTube and you can do a cover beginning to end, and it goes out there and it goes viral. It's a good way to promote yourself, and I thought, since at the time I was solo and I didn't have a live band yet, might as well give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, it's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning here. I'm guessing it's a bit later there with the beer.
Yes, yeah, it's 8 p.m. And it's Canada Day, so you might hear some fireworks going off in about an hour.
Okay, awesome. Well, you're in Canada. Cradle of Filth are based in England. Did you move to England, or how do you do this? It sounds quite complicated.
Yeah, it is complicated because I've been very lucky that Cradle of Filth has been so good with me living in Canada. Meanwhile, Danny and Richard Shaw, they're in England, and then our bassist Daniel Firth is in Scotland, and then Ashok and Martin Skrupka, our drummer, they are in the Czech Republic. So we're an international band, and we've all been fortunate enough to be part of this band and work on the new album together and tour, yet we're from 4 different countries. So I've been very lucky. I mean, Canada has always been my home, and I'm proud to be from here, and my whole family and my whole life is here. So I haven't had to give that up or move away or anything like that.
Yeah. And do you get much say on the recordings? Does Daddy just send you the compositions and you do your thing, or do you get to put your own input in as well?
It was actually more of a collaborative effort. The person who actually kept it together and made most of the big decisions for us is our drummer Martin Skrupka.
Yep.
He was conducting the whole thing from the beginning. So we all had our input, and it kind of Martin really had a vision for what he wanted for the album. I mean, we all did, but he was kind of like the one who organized everything and made sure it stayed coherent and organized and together. And we all had a big say. I was very lucky that I was able to do so many female vocals on the new album and add in harp, because I don't think we've had the harp since the Principle of Evil made Flash Days. I know that there's a bit of harp. I know it shows up here and there, but it's programmed where I actually got to play harp for Cradle of Filth. Was a huge thing. So I'd say it was a very equal collective of ideas that was put into the new album. It was really a cool process.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a throwback on the album. Like, it kind of reminds me of the old sort of Midian sort of days. Like, it's quite older sounding Cradle of Filth.
Yes, I think the reason that happened is because we're all fans of the old stuff. My favorite album is I love Midian. Midian's my favorite album, and the guys are all fans of the old stuff too. Ashok and Richard and Dougal, and even Martin, of course, because Martin's been with the band, I'd say, about 10 or 11 years. I could be wrong, somewhere around there. He's been there for a while, but he's still a fan. We're all fans first, and then we're in this band, you know, on the other side of it, second, I guess you could say. So we took a lot of our inspiration from our favorite songs off of the albums, from Principle, Desk and Her Embrace, Cruelty and the Beast, and Midian. We really went back to that old sound because that's what got us into Cradle of Filth.
Yeah.
So it might as well be inspired by the old stuff to write the new stuff, is kind of how we approached it.
Oh, fantastic. Now, I hear you're quite involved in PETA, and you're a vegan, and I thought it was a bit strange because Cradle of Filth wear quite a lot of leather, unless it's not leather. Did that bother you at all, the amount of leather in the band?
It's strange. I'm not wearing it, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I do wear antlers and feathers, but they come from natural shed. Nothing was hurt or died or anything bad happened. Danny, it's strange because Danny was a vegetarian for many years, and then he just gave up and went back to it. He, you know, we've had long conversations about it, and he respects me, and I respect his opinion. So I kind of keep to myself. We're a sassy bunch on the road, and we get on each other's nerves. And if someone starts making fun of me for just eating plants, I start telling them exactly how that piece of meat got on their plate. So I can be nasty about it in a snarky way, but it's their decision. And then there's my decision. But I'll never try to force my opinion on them because I believe that if you either have compassion or you don't. And my compassion extends beyond. I don't like being ignorant. Anything I wear or put in my body or on my body, I want to know where it came from. And I view animals as equals, where other people view animals as a commodity. So if you're always going to view something as a commodity, I can't change your view on it. So I'm not going to try to push that. You know, if you're interested, sure, I'll teach you. I'll tell you everything I know, but I'm not going to just forcefully be a brat about it. That's annoying. That's like someone trying to say, "Oh, I'm Christian. You know, you need Jesus." I'm not doing that with veganism. That, you know, unless you want to be informed, but there's no point in doing that.
Yeah. Lucky Cradle of Filth aren't quite as extreme. I don't know if they're still really considered black metal anymore. It's more just symphonic metal. But I know a friend that was the tour manager for Mayhem, and he thought it was a joke. They needed stuffed pigs' heads on the stage, and he thought they had some fake ones or something, and he had to drive out to an abattoir and haggle with the guy and get the pigs' heads. I'm like,
oh goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's part of an image. I even know Ozzy Osbourne thought he was biting the head off of a fake bat, and it was a real one, and it happens. Again, they obviously view animals as a commodity. So it's strange. I mean, but then you have bands like Cattle Decapitation, where they're a band strictly dedicated to bringing animal rights to the surface in the most grotesque, brutal way possible, kind of like how Cannibal Corpse has their imagery, but they're not obviously vegan. Yeah. So you have the extremes in metal, and I think, you know, I'd love to tour with Cattle Decapitation, because then I'll have a bunch of guys to go out to dinner with.
Yeah.
You know, the guys in Cradle of Filth have always been good about it. Like, we'll go to an Indian or a Middle Eastern or Japanese, and there'll always be options for me. So the guys have never complained. They understand it. So,
cool.
You know, it not complaining about the guys in Cradle Filth. They're actually pretty good about it.
Yeah.
It's the rare instance where I have to give one of them shit for eating meat because they're giving me shit for eating carrots and hummus for breakfast. So.
Yeah. I've always had this conversation, normally with people that are, I just call them idiots, and I'm sure you've had the same conversation before where You know, you show them heavy music and they say, that's not singing, screaming's not singing, anyone can do it. And I think Danny Filth has an incredible voice. He hits the baritones, the falsettos. You're someone that is a trained vocalist. Can you say whether or not it is a skill? I think it is. Definitely.
It is. I have to tell you, I find it ironic because in high school I actually didn't like Cradle of Filth, and I thought it was a gimmick and silly. And then when I joined the band and I forced myself to learn the keyboards, I was like, wow, this takes a lot of talent and time and patience to really respect and appreciate this music. So going to Danny's voice, I am trained. I've been trained for 8 years classically, but I've also looked into musical theater, jazz, pop, rock. So I tried to get, and folk. Folk is a whole new monster, and I tried to get like fully rounded as a singer because it's important to me to really know yourself, and if I didn't learn all those styles, I wouldn't have found my voice, really.
Yeah.
So when I sat down and I have to listen to Danny on stage, and don't mind my cat, he's old and he's gonna howl. He's howling looking for a mate. He's 18 years, he should be giving up at this point. Yeah. But anyway. Danny's voice. He actually uses the part of his rare technique that makes his voice so unique and original is that he does have whistle tone range, which is something that my voice type has as the coloratura, and it's a very high range. If you listen to something like Mozart's The Magical Flute, the Queen of the Night, you know, it's like all that high stuff. He does that, but he growls through it, and that's what's made him so original and unique. And I've actually helped him on the road try to do things to preserve his voice because as a singer, you have to do healthy, supportive talking, and there's a lot that goes into it. So Danny's voice is a whole monster on its own. He's his own instrument, and he is so dedicated and passionate about what he does. Like, he's forced himself on stage with the flu, but nobody knew he had the flu that night. It's amazing what we can force ourselves to do if we put it's mind over matter. So, yeah, there's a lot of talent in Cradle of Filth, and everybody can play. Regarding the guys, everyone can play a second instrument. I'm sure Martin Skorupa can play like quite a few. He's very talented. Wow. So we have quite a powerhouse in the band because even our bassist Daniel Firth, he wrote a lot of guitar too in some of the compositions, even though he is our bassist. Wow. So yeah, it's something like when I first wanted to join the band and I showed it to my mother, she was like, "Oh, I can't believe that voice and that style of music has a following." And now that she sees how much work I've put into the album and how much extra training and whatnot, I mean, I had to put forth on this album. I even wrote parts that I couldn't play. I'm like, well, they're in my head, and I have to teach myself how to play these parts in order to get them on the album. Now my mom has a better understanding of, there is a lot of talent in heavy metal. There's so much talent. I'd say we're like the classical classical musicians of this era, really.
Yeah, I'm sure if you showed your mum a song like Gilded Cunt, she probably wouldn't pick it, but a song like Nymphetamine is quite a pretty song. Would she appreciate a song like that?
Yeah, she loves it. She every time a new video of me singing Nymphetamine goes live, she's already listened to it. She really loves it. She likes the new song, Right Wing of the Garden Triptych. She thought it was really neat.
Yeah, I love that one too. That's great. There's a lot of solos on this album as well. It seems like, lots more guitar shreddage, which I really dig. I got my Ingve Malmsteen vinyl right here, so it's totally up my alley.
Yeah, we have two very talented guitarists in the band now, and we thought, you know what, we might as well utilize them because they can shred, and they just, especially live, when we started performing Right Wing live, Ashok has the solo, and he literally has to stand there and just close his eyes and concentrate so hard, but he gets the solo every time, and that's important. It's important to kind of let everybody have their turn and let everyone shine, which we did on this album, and that's why it came together so well, I think.
Yeah, I know you got a few more interviews lined up, so I'll only ask you one more question, or two-part question. Have you been to Australia before? I'm not sure if you're here for the last tour, and are you coming back?
Yes, I know we're in talks right now. We're trying to book something, and I have been to Australia before, and I have to tell you, I miss it dearly. I spent a week in Brisbane And that's actually where. Oh no way! Well, it's so gorgeous there. I want to go back like right now. And you're all such happy people. Reminds me a lot of Canada, except you have really nice weather all the time. You don't have to dig yourself out of your driveway.
It's quite nice.
Oh yeah, I'm very jealous. I won't lie. Actually, my clothing sponsorship, Black Milk, the ones that make those funky
I know them, yeah.
nylon. Yeah, they're from there, so I can't wait to go back and see the girls and just enjoy the food and the weather. You got a great vegan scene there. But honestly, some of the best crowds we've played to are in Australia. It might be because you guys are adamant drinkers and you're very passionate about your metal and drinking, and that's what made Australia so memorable the first time. But yeah, we really want to come back. It's usually something we tie into an Asian tour, so we're, fingers crossed, hoping that everything goes through within the next few months.
Cool as. Well, I'm really excited. I'll probably have a photo pass when you do come to Brisbane, so I'll be up the front taking photos, and